Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're switching gears to bicycles. And by gears, I mean brakes. So it's that time of year, mountain biking season is in full swing, so I've been riding. Unfortunately, I've gotten to that point where I've got the dreaded brake squeal. So that's not anything anyone really wants to deal with. So I'm going to show you how I like to take care of that. So brake contamination, or brake squeal, is usually caused from contamination. So usually going to be some sort of oil or something that's ended up on the rotor, transferred to the pads, makes terrible squeaky noises, and more importantly gives you no stopping power, which is the case here. So first step we're going to do is pull the wheel off. In this case I have a Shimano derailleur. There's a little lever to disengage the clutch. So now it's stiff and that's loose. If you have a SRAM derailleur, you'll have a little button to push to lock the cage out of the way to make it easier. If you don't have any of those two, you either don't have a clutch or I can't help you. So undo that, pull my through axle out. If you've got a QR, like quick release lever thingy, you don't need to take that out, but you do need to open it. Wheel will then drop out, and we'll address that in a bit. Next thing we're going to do is pull our pads out. Sometimes there's a little threaded piece, sometimes there's a clip. On these Shimanos, these are SLX, that's kind of a mid-tier Shimano. There's a cotter pin. So I'm going to pull that cotter pin out, and then I can pull my pads out. And they look pretty glazed over, not too bad, but there's definitely some residue on there, so we're going to clean that off. So first step we're going to do, because these are pretty bad, I'm going to just blot them with a paper towel and just try to clean off the goop. Kind of wondering if maybe that might be some brake fluid that got onto something. It's got that consistency of Shimano mineral oil. I don't know if you can see right there the difference in color. So this one definitely has some oil on it. This now has the surface oil removed. So now what I like to do is take some sandpaper, and you can just basically scuff this up with some sandpaper to clean it off. What I like to do in addition to that is add a little bit of alcohol. You can use isopropyl, but denature works well too. And this is just what I happen to have. Basically any alcohol sort of thing, it won't leave a residue and it'll clean up. Alright, and now I'll blot that to where it's nice and clean. Maybe go again with a little splash brush. So basically this is wet sanding with alcohol. I like to do this because it A, keeps everything clean, and B, keeps the paper from clogging up. I'm also going in kind of figure 8 shapes. That's something I learned from a machinist instructor. Basically, when you do that, it keeps you from kind of rounding the corners and gets it a little bit more flat. Okay, that's the one. Now we do the other. Alright, that looks shiny like a brand new pad. Now, we'll take our attention to the rotor. Alright, so Rotor gets about the same treatment. We're going to clean it off with alcohol, then sand it, and then clean it off with alcohol again. And if you're wondering, this is 180 grit. I like anywhere between 120 and 220. Doesn't really matter all that much. And back when I was in a bike shop, we just had a spray bottle of alcohol, but I don't have a dedicated spray bottle in here right now. Don't really have enough of it to put in a spray bottle, so we're just going to deal with blotting. Alright. And then the extra trick, if it's really stubborn, I don't necessarily always do this, but put enough on there, try to light it on fire. I think I need a little bit more. I think I am going to make a spray bottle. Alcohol sprayer's been made. Yeah. Get it on there. And a little toasty. So that'll usually help get things a little hot enough and help cook those contaminants off. And that paper towel is looking pretty clean. I'm going to hit it with a little bit more alcohol and just wipe off any excess. And if you're really desperate, I don't always recommend it, but if you want, you can do the same fire thing with the pads. So I'll put them on something non-flammable, like the anvil side of the vise, spray them, light on fire, let it sit for a little while, let them cool down, then reinstall them. But for us right now, it's time to get all this back together and reinstall it on the bike. So while everything's out, it's a good chance to clean the inside of the caliper. I did it with some alcohol, you can do it with whatever. Important thing is to get to the inside of the caliper where all the dirt and grime can get to the pads. If you want to clean the outside of the caliper, that's totally fine too. It's a good chance. Fortunately for me, I didn't get any, there wasn't any brake fluid residue in there, so whatever contaminant wasn't leaking out of the piston, so good on there. Anyway, now that it is clean, it's just time to throw our pads back in. So I've got our pads separated by the spring, and on this particular model I can drop it in from the top. Sometimes you have to drop it in from the bottom, and some other brands do other weird stuff. But these are pretty basic and straightforward. So they're in. We get the pad, or our pin through. And because this uses a cotter pin, we're going to just bend that ear up. Okay. Now time for the wheel. So if you don't know how to install a wheel, the first thing I usually see is people just say, oh, there's a thing, and then just jam it in right there and completely ignore the chain. What we want to do is we want the chain to go around the cassette. So we're going to bring it down from below, chain around the cassette, and then I'm going to either grab the tail of the cage or roll the body, pull back with my right hand, lift up with my left hand, and get that in there nice and smoothly. Then we'll throw our through axle through and tighten her up to the recommended torque spec. On this, it's about 20 Newton meters. That's what it says on the through axle. Sometimes it's about 16. Basically, it's good and snug. Make it tight, but don't go too crazy. So that should be it. There's a little bit of squeak right there. That's totally fine. They're metallic pads. They're extra grippy, and that does make some extra noise. But there's power there, and it's not a consistent terrible squeal like it was before. And that'll get better once I bed it in. So I'm going to do that, but probably not right now. Bedding in procedure is usually going to be bring it up to temp, get the pads to marry to the rotor. And the way we do that is basically ride up to about 10-15 miles an hour, slow down to about 5 or less. Keep doing that until the pads get hot or get some heat put into them, and you'll notice that they start to bite harder and harder. Then once you're done with that, once they start biting really well, you let them cool, so you just keep riding, no brake, and then I'll usually give it another stop or two to confirm that it is still good. So that is that, and that is de-squeakifying some bike brakes. I hope it was helpful for you and you learned something. Alright, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed doing some bike stuff with me in the garage today, and we'll see you next time. And if you want to see more bike stuff, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, if you like seeing woodworking stuff and automotive and hot rod stuff, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it.